If you own or manage a website, it needs regular maintenance, just like your car needs regular checkups and maintenance to keep it running smoothly. Your website's just the same. But do you need a maintenance plan for your website? In this video, we're going to talk about what are those regular updates and things that need to be done to keep your website running smoothly and help you determine whether it makes the most sense to hire somebody as part of a maintenance plan or if it's something you can do yourself. So first up, what is a website maintenance plan? Well, basically at a simple level, a website maintenance plan is just a checklist of things you need to do on a weekly, monthly, several monthly basis to keep your website running smoothly for user experience, for Google rankings and keeping things running fast and efficiently, and also most importantly for security as well. So let's dive into a little bit of what are those tasks actually that make up a website maintenance plan. So what should be included in a really solid maintenance plan? Well, I'm going to run through a checklist of things you should do on a regular basis. Some of these things might be obvious and make sense to you. Other things I list out here, you might say, I don't know what that is. But let's first get all these things on a table as far as what are those regular tasks to keep your website running really well. First off, one of the most important things, and this should be an ongoing task, is managing uptime. You want to make sure at all times, obviously, your website's available. You don't want people going to your website to find out that it's down. So a way to manage this is it could be as simple as using a plugin on WordPress or having some sort of system in place to email you or otherwise notify you if the website's down. But that's one of the most important things is uptime monitoring. A really good host can help with that. A lot of times you'll see website hosts say things like, we offer 99.999% uptime or things like that. What that basically means is on the web hosting side, they make sure your website's up pretty much all the time. But checking for those downtimes, those crashes, things like that is really important on a continuing basis. So that's a really important part of a maintenance plan to start with. The next two things that should be done on a daily or weekly basis are one, broken link checking, and that's making sure that there's no links on your website that, for example, might reference an internal page and that page is no longer there. So someone clicks that link, they end up with an error. Or if there are any outbound links that might go to an external website, if that external website changes or goes away, that's another broken link as well. Fortunately on that front, if you use WordPress, there are plugins that can help with that. But again, a good maintenance plan should keep on top of those sort of things. And then second, on a daily or weekly basis, comment checking is really important. So this is if your website allows user comments. If you need to approve those, you want to make sure you're approving them on a regular basis, or if there are any inappropriate comments or things like that, those are removed from your site. Keeping on top of that on a regular basis is really important for user experience and to help manage the content on your website as well. Next, also on a weekly basis, this is particular if you're using WordPress, you want to check for plugin updates or core updates to the underlying WordPress platform. If there are updates, usually they're either related to features or security features as well. You want to make sure you update those right away. And fortunately, if you're using WordPress, those updates are really simple. It's kind of analogous to updating an app on your smartphone. All you really do is click to approve that update. It'll process and you'll be good to go within seconds usually. Next up for a maintenance plan on a monthly basis is doing database cleanup. So the way WordPress works is behind the scenes, there's a database that stores all the custom information about your website. And on a monthly basis, you want to make sure you're helping clean up any unused files in that database. That might sound a little scary, but really what that means is deleting any old information you're not using anymore. So that might mean if you have blog posts that you're not using or posting and they're in your trash folder, just getting rid of those. Getting rid of any pictures or other files that aren't being used for your website. Removing any plugins or themes that aren't being used as well. Cleaning up these things on a regular basis will help out regarding your website's performance, but also will just make life a lot easier on an administrative side where you don't have lots of files clogging up your media folder or things like that if you're not going to use them. Next up, quarterly for a maintenance plan, we want to do things like checking passwords and updating those, and then also doing an occasional quarterly SEO audit. So making sure that you're still targeting the right keywords, things haven't changed, you're really doing the right things as far as SEO or search engine optimization for your website. And then last, on an annual or yearly basis, this is probably one of those things you can do yourself or with your team because you're going to know your website and your business probably better than a maintenance person or whoever's helping out with maintenance, is one, checking the content across your entire website, making sure it's still relevant, up to date, and appropriate for what you want to do with your website. And then last, making sure all of your domains and hosting are renewed as well. Granted, you can subscribe and do a multi-year plan as far as your domain or hosting, but just want to make sure neither one will lapse to make sure your website can still function at the domain you have. So those are all things that to maintain your website, you should be doing on that regular periodic basis as well. But there are also a few other things I want to mention to you as well that are things to keep in mind and you might want to consider either for yourself or again, somebody to help you out with a maintenance plan. So let's go through those. Some optional things you'll want to check for a maintenance plan are one, checking opt-in forms and making sure those work correctly. So for example, if people sign up and give you their email address and they get put into a MailChimp database for email updates and things like that, you want to test that periodically and make sure that's still working correctly. Next, you'll want to check load speeds. We use GTmetrix at Buddy a lot for page load speeds, and that's a good thing to do. Just double check and make sure your website's loading really quickly. Very, very important for user experience as well as Google rankings because that's a key part of their search ranking algorithm. Then next, checking 404 pages. What those are is that if someone tries to pull up a web page that's not there, they get some sort of error message that helps them find where they want to go. So for example, if they went to your website, say acmefurniture.com/abcdefg, and there's not an actual page at that address, you want to make sure they have some sort of 404 page that says, sorry, this page doesn't exist, and then it can help redirect somebody either to your sitemap or to the home page or somewhere else as well, rather than just kind of a random, confusing error message. And then last, some other things you want to do, and these might be a little more in the weeds. These can definitely be rabbit holes depending on how far you want to go, is one, just keeping on top of and checking your analytics. So checking website traffic, what pages people are going to, how long they're spending on your site, things like that. Just good to monitor on a regular basis how people are using your site. Good information to know, and it helps measure how your marketing and website traffic is overall. And then also you want to check out your search engine rankings. So how is your website doing and how is it ranking when people search for keywords related to your business or your website as well? So, okay, I threw a lot at you. There's a lot of things obviously to keep on top of. If you're comfortable with technology and don't mind doing these things on a regular basis, there's nothing really here that you can't learn and do yourself. But if you're busy, if you're intimidated by this, or feel like, you know what, I just want somebody else to worry about this, it might make sense to look into maintenance plans as well. So if you saw this list and are thinking, gosh, that seems like a lot, should I do this myself and keep it on my own plate, or should I get help? Here are a couple things to think about. The first one is, how comfortable are you with technology and going behind the scenes of your website to do these things? Fortunately, if you use a platform like WordPress for your website, these tasks aren't necessarily hard. They're just things to do and check off your to-do list on the regular basis. If you like really knowing about your website too and monitoring traffic analytics, then definitely I'd encourage you to hop in and do these things as well. But of course, if you want to outsource or get help with maintenance, that person or that team helping out with these tasks should definitely be able to share with you very easily analytics, metrics, things like that. So the first question to ask is, do you need a maintenance plan or not? Is, do you feel comfortable with these sorts of tasks? That's a huge driver. The next thing to think about really is, what role does your website play for your business? If your website is really integral or integrated into your site for getting leads, completing sales, things like that, it might be worthwhile to invest the money with a really good team to use a maintenance plan, just so you make sure those things don't slip by the wayside or get pushed back, just to make sure your website is really running smoothly all the time. And then the last thing to think about too is, how much traffic do you get? Is your site used a lot? And probably even more than that is, are there factors on your website that could be security risks? So if your website is a one-page site where it's just text and images, pretty straightforward, granted, you still want to update your website on a regular basis. But by comparison, if you're running transactions, if you have an e-commerce website, if you have a healthcare website, if you have memberships or logins, that makes it all the more important because there are a lot more risk factors or security factors for your website to keep in mind. So you definitely need to make sure you're keeping on top of maintenance either way. But if your website falls in that category of having those more complex features or is more mission critical or there's more at stake, so to speak, that might move things more in favor towards making sense to hire somebody and have them help out with a maintenance plan. Okay, so last thing to cover. If you're thinking that you might want a maintenance plan, probably something you're thinking about is what's it going to cost? And maintenance plans can be all over the board. It's going to depend on your needs, how big your site is, if there's different plugins or complexities or things like that. Some basic plans can start $30, $50 per month or so. Some can go in the hundreds, probably thousands a month or so as well. I've talked to people on the phone who have asked us about our services and working together and say, I'm paying several grand a month on hosting and maintenance. One thing to be really, really clear about though is I would say shop around, look into different options. Only make sure you're going with someone or a team for a maintenance plan that's very reputable, is going to be in the game for a long time, because you don't want them going MIA or off the reservation and saying like, where did my developer go? You want to make sure you're sticking with a team that's going to be there for the long haul. It's going to do a really good job. And also you really want to be clear on whatever you're budgeting with that team or with that person. You want to know what that's going towards, because maintenance is one of those things where for some folks it can be a little bit of a black box. What that means for developers is maybe they charge a little bit higher knowing that a customer might just pay it because they don't know any different as well. So I definitely would encourage you to always go with somebody who's reputable for maintenance plans, but definitely shop around and do some price comparisons as well to make sure you're paying a fair amount for a really good job done. All right, so there you have it. A couple tips on what maintenance plans are, tasks they should entail, and some considerations of whether or not it might make sense for you to take care of website maintenance yourself or with your own team, or if it makes more sense to hire that out to an individual or team to do maintenance for you as well. So as always, if we can be a resource for you at Buddy, if you have any questions or website needs in general, feel free to reach out and let us know. We're more than happy to have a conversation. No pressure, no obligation. If you'd like to learn more about our team at Buddy, you can visit our website at www.buddywdd.com. And if you'd like to get in touch, you can just click on that button in the upper right-hand corner, answer a few quick questions, and we'll follow up right away to schedule some time to chat. So as always, thanks so much for watching. Hope this has been helpful. We'll talk to you again real soon.